So Nonstop Sports released this video called 15 Dumbest Trades in NBA History, and I'm just thinking about some of the dumbest trades in history. Obviously the one in the thumbnail, Rockets, Thunder, Celtics, Nets. Boy, that trade was so bad. But I see why Brooklyn did it at the time. It was a mistake even then, but let's reminisce, y'all. Let's reminisce. Shout out to Nonstop Sports. Links will be in the description for his video, man.
Immediately ask yourself, what the hell was that GM thinking? These are the dumbest trades in NBA history. Starting with a 2022 trade that was maybe the biggest overpay in NBA history. We're talking about Rudy Gobert, who got traded to Minnesota for 5 players.
They send Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Jared Vanderbilt, the number 22 overall pick, Walker Kessler,
and 5 first-round picks. Granted, Rudy was a...
Now, this is my question when it comes to the Rudy Gobert trade. Does a championship void and destroy this belief when it comes to this trade? Because I remember when the Bucks traded for Jrue Holiday, and I will pull up what the Bucks gave up for Jrue Holiday right now. Jrue Holiday, Bucks trade, was that 2020? 2019? Yeah, 2020, right? So Bucks acquired Jrue Holiday from Pelicans in a 4-team deal. Okay? So the Bucks gave up, let's see where it says right here. The Bucks traded Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, and future draft picks for the 2-time all-defensive standout. Mind you, at the time, I understand Eric Bledsoe gets a lot of shit now, but Eric Bledsoe was all-defensive team and was their lead point, not lead point guard, but he was their point guard the first season Giannis won MVP when they won 60 games. I want to see how many draft picks they gave up. I think this was day of... I'm trying to see how much they gave up, because I remember it was a crazy amount of draft picks for Jrue Holiday. Let's see. Oh, it was a 4-team trade. Oh my God. So the Pelicans get Eric Bledsoe. They got Steven Adams. They got 2 first-round draft picks from Milwaukee. 2 additional first-round pick swaps from Milwaukee. And then George Hill got sent out. They gave up the 24th overall pick from Milwaukee to Denver, right? So they gave up a lot. Long story short, would we say that the Milwaukee Bucks overpaid for Jrue Holiday in 2024? Or does that notion kind of go away because of the fact that they won a championship? And the reason why I say that, going back to Rudy Gobert, is if the Timberwolves somehow manage to win a championship, does that remove this idea that this trade was ridiculously bad, right? And especially this year with them being a top seed in the Western Conference, developing a defensive identity. Anthony Edwards is on the rise. They've even figured out the Cat Gobert situation. Jaden McDaniels is on the team. Mike Conley's on the team. They got a really Naz Reid is on the team. They got a really talented squad over there in Minnesota. If they figure it out, is this trade still that bad? Because I feel like if they were to win a championship, Rudy Gobert would be a very integral part to that success. But I guess that's too far of a what if to talk about, right? But let me know what y'all think in the comment section, though.
A 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and his production on that side of the floor is undeniable. But offensively, Gobert is often just a bystander who can't dribble, pass, or shoot.
Gobert's going to shoot a 3.
And he'll be earning upward of $40 million until 2026. Also, 2 of the guys the Wolves traded for him actually played better defense than Rudy in 2023. If that wasn't catastrophic enough, the Timberwolves could have also traded for Kevin Durant that same summer.
Maybe last season, but this season, Rudy's having like a career year. Rudy Gobert this season, and I've seen some of the comments about me being a fucking pause merchant. Y'all can eat dick, because it's either I pause and actually give my feedback, or just let the video play out. Now I'm just watching, not giving any reaction. But Rudy Gobert this season is averaging 2.1 blocks a game, giving you 12 to 13 rebounds. If we look at the advanced stats, defensive win, he's leading the league in defensive win shares. And even if you don't understand that statistic, that's cool. That's fine. That's dandy. We can just look at the team. And they have the number 1 defense in the league, and Rudy Gobert is the best defender on this team. I understand they have some really solid defenders on this team: Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels. But let's keep it a bean. Let's keep it a buck. The main reason, and what elevates them to being the best defense in the league is Rudy Gobert. So.
2022, without Rudy, the Wolves won 48 games. And with him in 2023, they won just 41. In 2024, the Timberwolves have finally figured out how to incorporate the big Frenchman within their offense. But with 2 other All-Stars and a great supporting cast, they should have been a winning team even without the Gobert trade. But hey, if their team keeps winning, then maybe it wasn't such a bad trade after all.
That's what I'm
And we all know Rudy was paid like his basketball skills cure cancer. But the GM who orchestrated this trade is widely considered the sneakiest NBA GM of the last 20 years. Danny Ainge began his executive career in 2003, and his ruthless decision-making earned him the nickname Trader Danny. In 2007, Ainge's genius shined to the fullest when he traded for Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, who had 17 All-Star selections between them.
And let me tell you, you passed those genes off to Brad Stevens, because the deals Brad Stevens has been able to pull off, Trader Danny S, let me tell you.
Win the 2008 title in Boston. But the best part is that all that Ainge gave up was a young and unproven Jeff Green and Al Jefferson, a few picks, and a couple of guys who were on their last NBA legs. And this was just the beginning of Ainge making other general managers look stupid. In 2017, Ainge bamboozled the Sixers for an extra first-round pick when he gave them the number 1 overall pick, which they used on the broken Markelle Fultz, while Ainge got the 3rd pick that became Jason Tatum. Later,
I do wonder during that draft if Danny Ainge knew about Markelle's shot and what was going on with his shoulder, because that was such a crazy thing to do. Because looking back, chat, I need y'all to understand, Markelle was the unanimous number 1 pick in that draft, a very talented draft, including the likes of Jason Tatum, including the likes of, at the time, Lonzo Ball, De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell, right? An extremely talented draft class. And Markelle stood above the rest, being the unanimous number 1 overall pick. And the Philadelphia 76ers obviously was in more need of a guard back then compared to the Celtics, who had Isaiah Thomas, which would later then become Kyrie Irving. But yeah, I do wonder if he knew that injury, because him not only landing Tatum and Tatum becoming what he is, but avoiding Markelle Fultz was such a crazy thing.
Later that year, Ainge basically conned the Cavaliers when he gave them an injured Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder for Kyrie Irving. But Ainge's coup de grace and his absolute GM masterpiece was how he fleeced Billy King and the Brooklyn Nets.
Yep.
In 2013, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry were a combined 110 years old and were on 1-year deals when Brooklyn made one of the most boneheaded trades ever, going all in with a weak hand. For the ancient package from Boston, the Nets paid a king's ransom, 5 players and 4 first-round picks.
Again, it just depends on what direction you're going in, right? And, I criticize teams for staying in the middle and playing scary. But, they had Darren Williams at the time. They had Brook Lopez. They had Joe Johnson. I personally would have done it with LeBron and the Heat looking like the way they were looking. But, they had this core and they wanted to go all in on it. Sometimes in life, things on paper make sense, and the decision as you made it truly wasn't the worst decision in the world. But, the results doesn't necessarily justify or doesn't justify why you decided to do a certain thing. You know what I'm saying? But fuck all that. That was a dumb trade. That was a dumb ass trade. I'm not even trying to cape, bro. Y'all gave up way too much for them too. And the Celtics, again, thank God for seeing that the light was at the end of the tunnel. Thank God for seeing that the core was truly at the end of it. You know what I'm saying? I also hate it when teams try to hold on for too long. You know what I'm saying? They try to hold on to that core for too long. Now you're wasting your fans' time, to be honest with you. You could be rebuilding right now, but you wanted to extend this shit for 2 years. It was clear by 2013 that the Big Three Celtics was washed. 2012 was their last hurrah. They almost made it to the finals back then, and in my opinion, they still would have got spanked by the Thunder. I'm trying to imagine Paul Pierce guarding Kevin Durant right now, bro. Like, I'm trying to imagine Ray Allen trying to guard Russell Westbrook right now, bro. And even Rondo. If Russell Westbrook is Rondo assignment, Russell Westbrook is about to put that pressure on Rondo, but nah.
Later turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. After the Nets got dominated by LeBron in the 2014 playoffs, Pierce and KG left, and Brooklyn was stuck with a bad roster and no first-round picks, which crippled their franchise for years. However, that Nets catastrophe is nothing when you compare it to what the Clippers did in 1970.
I will say, though, there was a very, very small period of time where Brooklyn Nets fans were ready to cook the Celtics, right? Because for those who don't remember, number one, by 2019, they somehow, someway pulled off like a miracle. With the D'Lo, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Brooklyn Nets. Great year for the Brooklyn Nets, right? The year after, they somehow get Kyrie and KD, right? Year after that, they get James Harden. And boy, if those Brooklyn Nets teams won before the Celtics, after the Celtics fleeced the Nets, I was ready for the damn, so y'all fleeced us, but we still got a ring before y'all tweets. Like, those tweets would have went crazy if the Nets won in 2021. You know what I'm saying? Damn, all these fucking assets, but we were still able to sign KD before y'all. Damn, all these assets, but we were the ones that were able to make Kyrie work. Those tweets would have went crazy. I'm telling y'all right now, so. Whew, thank God.
76. The Clippers were then...
But then them getting beat by the Brooklyn picks. Before we move on. Their downfall being their own picks. Now that's funny.
Known as the Buffalo Braves. And what they did that season was the worst year of executive decisions, not just in the NBA, but in all of sports. See, the Braves had 3 Hall of Fame players in their prime, plus a Hall of Fame coach. And in the space of just 1 year, they messed it all up. First, after he lost the 1976 conference finals, the Braves fired coach Jack Ramsey, who would go on to win the NBA title with Portland the very next season. 2 months later, when the ABA merged with the NBA, Buffalo got incredibly lucky to select Moses Malone in the expansion draft. Malone was already an all-star in the ABA, but when he came to the Braves, they inexplicably kept him on the bench. When Malone protested, they traded him just 2 weeks into the season in exchange for 2 first-round picks. Malone would go on to win 3 MVP awards, along with 12 more All-Star selections, and he's in the top 5 all-time in rebounds and top 10 in points. But the Braves weren't done yet, because in 1972, Buffalo drafted Bob McAdoo, and by 1976, McAdoo was already a 4-time All-Star, 3-time scoring champion, and the league MVP. But that clearly wasn't good enough for the Braves, who traded one of the top 3 players in the NBA to the Knicks for John Gianelli, a guy who averaged 8 points per game.
Why?
But that's not all, folks, because the Braves also had Adrian Dantley, a future 6-time All-Star and 2-time scoring champion. Dantley averaged 20 points per game for Buffalo and won 1977 Rookie of the Year, after which the Braves traded him for Billy Knight. Granted, Knight was an all-star, so this move wasn't so terrible, or at least it wouldn't have been, if the Braves hadn't also traded Knight after only 1 season. If they kept those 3 future Hall of Famers and Coach Ramsey, the Braves could have dominated the league for the next 15 years. But like a drunk millionaire, they squandered everything for 10 cents on the dollar. However, Bob McAdoo and Moses Malone weren't the only Hall of Fame centers to get traded for virtually nothing. In fact, almost every great big man of that era got exchanged for peanuts. In 1975, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar decided that he was done with Milwaukee and demanded a trade to either New York or LA. And despite having the 2 richest teams bidding for the best NBA player, the Bucks couldn't muster more than Junior Bridgman, Dave Myers, and Elmore Smith, none of whom averaged more than 13 points per game in their career. 10 years earlier, another franchise was stuck in the corner and had to trade the best player in the NBA. In 1965, the San Francisco Warriors got into financial trouble, and their only way out was to trade Wilt Chamberlain. However, the return for the man who averaged 41 points and 25 rebounds
Nah, bro. Trading Wilt Chamberlain because you're literally broke is a crazy concept in 2024.
for their franchise
That's insane.
was extremely slim. Connie Dierking, who averaged 8 points per game
Who
and
is
got
this?
traded away just 1 year later. Paul Newman, who retired after 3 years and 13 points per game. And Lee Schaefer, who retired before playing a single game for the Warriors.
Hairy-ass chest.
Meanwhile, Wilt would go on to win the title with the Sixers. But after just 4 years, he demanded another trade. And just like the Warriors, the Sixers also dropped the ball, receiving 2 players who averaged less than 10 points per game, and Archie Clark, who was an aging all-star past his prime. But as dramatic as Wilt's lopsided
Talk about a players' league. God damn. Were the GMs just that bad back then, or like? And maybe it's because of the fact that like there wasn't much talent in the league. So obviously, like I get you're trying to like we have all the leverage over here. If your player wants to leave, we have all the leverage, dog. For real. Because what are you gonna do? Keep on paying them? You're broke, buddy. Nah, bro.
trades were, it's even crazier what happened to his arch nemesis, Bill Russell. Before the 1956
Yeah, he got traded on
NBA
draft
draft,
day.
the Celtics coach and GM Red Auerbach first traded all-star Ed Macauley and Cliff Hagan to the St. Louis Hawks to move up in the draft and secure the second pick. The Hawks didn't want to draft Russell because their owner was racist, and so they were glad to make the deal with the Celtics. Still, Boston was in a bad position because the Rochester Royals also wanted Russell, and they were picking number 1. But since the Celtics owner also owned the Ice Capades, a hit ice skating traveling show, Auerbach convinced Rochester to pass on Russell in exchange for several Ice Capades performances over the years. Somehow, both
Oh my god, I didn't know that, bro. No, 60s ball is crazy, bro. Cause look at the scenarios that they're bringing up. It doesn't like these are things that the NBA just doesn't have to do with nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine who was driving. Imagine the Spurs, right? Vic is on the board, and the Blazers were like, "Yo, San Antonio, I know y'all are a big fan of what's that musical called? Hamilton." I know y'all are a big fan of Hamilton. I'll give y'all 4 Hamilton shows in exchange for y'all to pass up on Victor Wembanyama. And Greg Popovich goes, I bet. Bro, oh my God. And imagine pass up on someone because you don't like their skin color too. That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
the Hawks and the Royals accepted those deals, and Russell became a Celtic, where he would win 11 championships in the next 13 seasons. However, this wasn't the last time Red Auerbach fooled somebody to create a dynasty. After he gambled and drafted Larry Bird in 1978, before his final year of college, Auerbach wasn't done, and he pulled off an even bigger miracle in the 1980 NBA draft. The Celtics had the 1st and 13th overall selection that year, but the old fox Auerbach decided to trade those 2 picks to Golden State for Robert Parrish and the 3rd overall pick, which they used on Kevin McHale, who combined for 16 All-Star seasons with the Celtics. In the span of just 2 years, Auerbach formed the greatest front court in NBA history, and the media dubbed the trade for Parrish and McHale the steal of the century. But the Celtics' biggest rival, and a franchise that's tied with Boston with 17 NBA titles, is also no stranger to dumb trades. The LA Lakers won their last championship in 2020, and they kept largely the same team in 2021, when they had the best defense in the NBA. But after the unlucky injuries to both AD and LeBron, the Lakers got bounced out of the 2021 playoffs in the first round, and then they stupidly decided to part ways with the best perimeter defense in the NBA to add another layer of golden paint. In one of the worst deals in Lakers history, LA sent out Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and 1 first-round pick in exchange for
I will say, though, the criticism was already valid before the Russell Westbrook trade. Like, shit didn't fall apart because Russell Westbrook came onto the team. Shit fell apart because they found a winning formula and went away from it. They found a winning formula and went away from it. for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know. I could understand why, because as much as we want to sit here and criticize him for, moving away from that winning formula, I've also seen teams, more recently actually, the Golden State Warriors, where they stuck to their core. They found their winning formula, and they say, let's run it back. And then when it didn't work the second time going around, now they get criticized for not making moves. So I've honestly seen the other side of the token as well. But two things can be true at the same time. It's a case by case basis. I think they went too left too much. You know what I'm saying? They are still obsessed with trying to get that third star with LeBron and AD. I've heard the rumors. They're trying to get Trae Young. They're trying to get Zach LaVine. They're trying to get DeJounte Murray. But in reality, like, y'all don't... It'd be cool. Would it create more buzz in LA? Absolutely. But you don't need that third star, bro. You don't need that third star. The Nuggets didn't need it last year. In 2022, the Warriors truly didn't need it. Right? The Warriors didn't even have a duo for real, in 2021, I guess the Bucks had Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton, depending on who you want to look at. 2020, y'all didn't need it. 2019, Kawhi who was it? Kawhi, Kyle Lowry, and Siakam. You don't need that third star that has star acknowledgement within the league, dog. Like, long story short, essentially what I'm saying is Austin Reeves is good enough, in my opinion, to be that third star. On top of everything that y'all have, Austin Reeves is good enough to be that third star for y'all. Y'all don't need to look anywhere else, bro. Y'all don't need to look anywhere else.
33-year-old Russell Westbrook and his max contract. Because of that, they also couldn't pay Alex Caruso and Dennis Schroeder, which plummeted their defense and killed their floor spacing. Even with LeBron and AD, LA played ugly, inefficient, and ultimately losing basketball for a year and a half. And they could do nothing about it because Westbrook's massive contract constricted them from making any meaningful additions. Finally, during the 2023 trade deadline, the Lakers got rid of Russ, after which they had the best record in the remaining part of the season. But for some franchises, the worst mistakes don't happen when they misjudge the existing NBA talent, but the future ones. The worst draft trade ever happened in 1996, when the Hornets drafted Kobe Bryant, but then immediately traded him to the Lakers for Vlade Divac, who spent just 2 years in Charlotte and averaged 11 points per game. Then
I will say draft day trades are the definition of hindsight is 2020, because how players develop in certain situations mattered a lot. Now I think the great ones will figure out a way, regardless. But there's certain cases of like, I don't think this player develops the way that he does if he's on a team that doesn't have the right veterans. Hell, if we really want to talk about it, scientifically speaking, the butterfly effect is crazy. If this player gets drafted by this other team, he might be injury prone there for other reasons, So I think including draft day trades in this is kind of weak, but I want to see what he brings up though. The Kobe one, Kobe was a risk back then too, dog. Was it the 96 draft? Was he the first player to come out of high school? I think KG came before the year before. Yeah, I think KG was drafted before him. But like taking an 18-year-old guard, that was a risk. I don't know, bro. And it was at 13.
There's also the 1998 draft when the Bucks traded Dirk Nowitzki to Dallas for Robert Tractor Traylor, who averaged just 4.5 points per game in 2 years in Milwaukee, while Dirk scored over 30,000 points for the Mavs. The 1987 draft, when the Supersonics gifted Scottie Pippen to the Bulls in exchange for Olden Polynice, also deserves to be mentioned. However, in the last 10 years in the NBA, most big lopsided trades happen when a disgruntled superstar wanted to change teams. In 2012, James Harden wanted to get a max contract from the Thunder, who lowballed him and offered him $5 million less. The Beard felt disrespected, and the Thunder panicked, swiftly trading him to the first bidder. Daryl Morey, whom Harden currently hates more than anyone.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I would never be a part of an organization.
Yo, chat, I remember seeing this on the timeline for the first time, and I was like, is this AI? Is this real? Like, seeing these words come out of his mouth, I'm like, I don't think he's supposed to be doing this. But now it makes sense.
He's a part of the
Correctly believed that James was a superstar.
Obviously, working hard to get back to being a championship contender, and we feel like James Harden is a player we can build around.
And he got him for 20 cents on the dollar. In the next 9 seasons, James averaged almost 30 points per game for the Rockets, and his trade was the beginning of the end for the Thunder's dynasty. And a guy who wasn't always Harden's biggest fan.
We said, I would hate to play with this guy.
Yeah.
He dribble, and then shoots a step back three.
Did the exact same thing as James 20 years earlier. In 1992, Charles Barkley felt that he was rotting in Philadelphia and wasting his prime on a bad team. So the Sixers agreed to trade Barkley, who was arguably the second best player in the world. But all they got for him was a season and a half of Jeff Hornacek and a couple of bench riders. Some honorable mentions are when Indiana traded Alex English to Denver just before he blossomed into an 8-time All-Star, or when the Spurs traded the best rebounder in NBA history to the Bulls for Will Perdue, who averaged 4 points and 4 rebounds per game. If you want to learn more about the NBA, click on this video right here and subscribe to Nonstop.
Shout out to Nonstop for the video. What are some other trades? I'm blanking on trades right now, but I'm thinking about the Gasol trade at the trade deadline in 07-08. But I think the Grizzlies got Marc Gasol back in that trade. So I think that's why that wasn't that bad. Was the AD trade bad for the Pelicans? Let's be real. Let's be honest. Chris Paul, I don't remember anything they got from that trade. But maybe I'm just talking out of my ass right now, for real. Again, shout out to Nonstop Sports for the video. And we out, man. Peace.